Hello, I started to construct the truck for my bicycle locomotive. It's pretty much some 12-inch bicycle rims, 4 pieces of conduit cut about 4 feet long, and a couple pieces of 1.5-inch PVC pipe. I took each of the 4-foot long pieces of conduit and I pounded them flat in 3 places, and I drilled bolt holes in them and I stuck them on the wheels like that. I temporarily stuck some cable ties on it to hold them in place while I drill the bolt holes. And as I drill the bolt holes and insert the bolts, I'll be taking off the cable ties one at a time when the bolts are in. Pretty simple design, just rides on the rails like that. In the video description, I'll put the link to the video where I made this track. I'm going to put brakes on the front 2 wheels. I have to go out and get a couple more wheels for in the middle right there. And somehow I have to get pedals and chain going to these rear wheels to power them. I'm also working on a prototype motor to hook up to it. What I'm doing right here, I'm going to need a small gear going to a big one for max torque. My seat's going to go above the rear wheels to help traction. I'm also going to stick my horn on it. So my pedals are going to go up here and my motor's going to go back here. That motor's going to go back here and be connected to the wheels at all times. When I pedal, it's also going to cause the motor to spin, but there'll be no power going to it. And it doesn't actually hurt the motor or anything to do that. I'm also going to get 4 more wheels and build a tender that'll hold my air tank. I'm going to have the air tank going to the brakes and the horn. When there's no air pressure going to the brakes, they're going to be locked on via a spring. And when I add pressure, it'll release the brakes. The hose is going to come up to this side of the seat. And there's going to be 2 valves, one for the horn and one for the brakes. I was thinking about adding a bucket of sand to it that I can spray onto the track for traction if I need it. So that would mean adding a 3rd valve to that side that would go down and spray the sand onto the track out of the bucket. Yeah, like drill a hole in the bottom of the bucket, add a T, stick the air hose halfway in, so that way the sand would fall into the T and get sprayed out. Yeah, you can take like a little elbow or something to make it go uphill so the sand won't all pour out. And you just run your 2 hoses down to the track in front of the wheels. So when you open the valve, the air will spray in, pushing the sand out down to the wheels, and it'll spray it onto the track. And on this side, I'm going to have all the switches for the motor. You dump 1 capacitor into the motor, and since there's 2 windings in this motor, a smaller one and a bigger one, you dump all the power into the small winding and it makes the motor spin, and the big winding boosts the voltage back up and recharges all the capacitors. So you can have one, it'll dump all the power, and these ones will charge, and then when you go to this one will recharge and it'll keep recharging it. I'm trying to do a combination of ZVS driver and DC to AC circuits for this. Alright, if you take a 3-way light switch and you take the common wire and stick it to your load, and you take your traveler wires, the 2 wires on this side, and run them to 2 capacitors, and you have one of the traveler wires going to the positive terminal on this capacitor, and you have the other traveler wire going to the negative terminal on this capacitor, and you take the 2 terminals on the capacitors that you're not using and connect them together and run them to the other side of the load. When you flick the switch back and forth, you can generate a couple hertz AC. That's kind of the idea that's going on here. I'm going to have to figure out what kind of bend this can go around without derailing. I made enough room in my project cave to stack all my tracks, sit my locomotive on it, and I also got a place where I can put my tender and 3 rail cars that I can make. I have 5 types of cars to choose from: a tanker car, a hopper car, a passenger car, a box car, or a container car. I have to pick 3. Well, thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and remember, if you're doing an engineering project, always keep it simple and to think outside the box. When I went to flatten the first piece of 3/4-inch conduit, I tried to stick it in the vise, and with this pipe right here, I stuck it on the handle, and that's what happened to the handle. It got all bent.